Hi, fifth graders. We are on to week 5 of our at-home learning. You just read an article titled Freedom or Death. This article is nonfiction. We know when we read nonfiction, there are a lot of characteristics that we know we're going to see. It's more than just saying it is a true story. It is a true story, but it gives us a lot of facts and a lot of information about this story. We also don't have to read it in order. And we're also going to see a lot of nonfiction text features to help further our learning on the subject. And it also tells us kind of what the author's purpose is going to be, specifically to nonfiction. Now, the first section, we learned about a ship called the Planter that was carrying ammunition for Southern ships. But there was a little something special about that ship. The regular captain wasn't the one who was actually driving the ship, and it was headed into the north, which was unusual for a southern ship. We find out that Robert has taken over the ship, and that very last paragraph, it says Robert was leading a mission of extraordinary daring. Within moments, he and his family would be free or they would be dead. That has you on the edge of your seat, having to know, did they make it or did they die? That next section is titled A Life of Slavery, and it tells us about what life was like for slaves. It says that Robert's life wasn't like other slaves. He was fortunate that his owners were kind, but his mom made sure that he knew what life was actually like for slaves. She took him to, the square where he got to see some of the things that slaves went through. And while he wasn't going through that stuff, he knew that that was not the life that he wanted as a slave, or the life that he might want for his family someday. In both, right here beside this section, they include some real photographs from this time period, so we can see what slave families look like, so we can see the kind of work that slave families did. Our next section, before that, we also got to see a picture of President Lincoln, which we know he's the one who kind of started the Civil War and the process of abolishing slavery. And we know that that part is just tying into that time period. Then we go on to Haunted by Memories. Okay, this section really set a mood for the story. It talks about how, he's he falls in love, he has a family, everything's good, but there's still lots of parts in his life where he can be reminded that he could lose his wife, he could lose his children, that time period is so very dark and uncertain for slaves of that time. A bloody war. This text feature right here talks about how at this point in time, the Civil War was the bloodiest conflict in the U.S. So out of all the wars and stuff, this one was the bloodiest. So it has a very good subtitle, as in a bloody war. And that one talks to us about how the war affected Robert, what made him decide to go. It talks about why the war started and why he decided to, at first he was forced to fight for slavery, and that was just unacceptable to him. He did not believe in that, but he was forced. So he decided it was time to do something. Time to make a change. It says he decided to take the chance and risk everything for freedom. All this is making me think about the book that we did with Miss Merrill last week. Plus, we talked a lot about Henry Box Brown's Freedom this year. And all those, I'm being connected to both those stories as I've gone through and read this. Our last one, a bold plan. It was a bold plan because there was no guarantee he was going to make it through, correct? He did. All the slaves weren't slaves anymore. They were able to go and live in the North, and he actually ended up going on into the end of slavery, into Section 7. He kept fighting for the North because that was a very important cause to him. There were So many amazing things he did with his life, and I love that we get to see an actual picture of what he looked like there towards the end of his life. It says, I'm going to read this last paragraph. Even as a respected businessman and politician, Robert faced many hardships. There was great prejudice against African Americans, especially freed slaves. Yet throughout his life, he remained a strong voice for his people. All they need, he famously said, is an equal chance in the battle of life. Meaning, all anyone needs, black or white people, is an equal chance to go out there and live your life. What we're going to do now is talk a little bit about author's purpose. You watched a video, and we always see the words persuade, inform, entertain, but it's more than that. We're wanting to know what was the author's purpose in writing that. We don't always have to use those words, and we have to show evidence when we talk. We have to show what from here told us that it was the author's purpose too. So when we get off here, you're going to answer that question for your teacher. She may offer you a Google form. She may want you to write it and take a picture. She may just want you to post it to this page. She may want you to email it to her. But we want to know, what was the author's purpose in writing this article, freedom or death? I can't wait to see all your responses.